Lately, a lot of people have been asking themselves the question, should I use mouse Accel? In this video, I'm going to give you the pros and cons of Accel so you can help answer this for yourself. Most people use the raw Accel driver since games don't ban its users as it can't be used for cheating, and it is very customizable. I put a link to their GitHub in the description. If you don't already know, what mouse Accel is it essentially just raises your sense as you move your mouse faster. A lot of people know it from the Windows implementation Enhanced Pointer Precision. The function of this acceleration is actually a very painful one to use, and most people don't find it works well. I would not recommend it for anyone who's new to Accel. If you hear someone saying Accel is very bad for you, chances are they're talking about that. However, there is also another group of people who think Accel makes aim harder due to the variable of speed, and some of these people are very smart, well-respected Kovaaks players like Viscos. Before we can get into these arguments for or against mouse Accel, I have to go over its universally agreed upon benefits. Accel allows you to use a sensitivity as your base sensitivity or your lowest sensitivity that you are comfortable aiming precisely on. You can then make mouse movements that are easier to make on a high sense by moving your mouse faster. Due to the nature of these two things, usually when you are moving your mouse faster, a higher sense is easier, and when you're moving your mouse more slowly, a low sense is easier. For example, in-game when someone is far away, their movements will seem slower and you will move more slowly when aiming at them. When they are close to you, you will move faster. When targets are big, you will be able to whip your mouse around faster, a higher sense will be easier. When they're smaller, you will aim more precisely and more slowly. A lower sense will be better. The list of advantages can go on and on, but there are a few exceptions to this rule. Dynamic clicking or counter-strafing enemies tend to require some precision, but to hit a moving target you don't slow to a stop, and therefore your mouse is still accelerating to some degree. That means you'll be on somewhat of a high sense. Also, because of the way Accel works, if you were on a flat sense that might be around the speed you'd move to track a target, this would be easier than aiming on an Accel curve where you'd be on the same speed as the high sense if you were tracking the target perfectly. Essentially, what Accel does is it makes the target feel smaller on your mousepad than an equally high flat sense would. I linked a mathematical proof and explanation of this that I made with the help of my friend StarkLN in the description, but this is a gaming video, non-integral calculus video, so I'm not going to bother sharing our results here. While you're scrolling through the description, make sure to click the subscribe button. So now we have to look at why someone like Viscos may not like Accel and why I don't think her explanations are justified. Essentially, her argument is that a second dimension of motion will make it so that you have something extra to confuse yourself, making consistent aim harder. Before you just had distance, now you have speed and distance. I believe that this underestimates the quality of the unconscious mind. Really, any FPS player can move their hand with an extreme level of precision. Skilled ones can do it very quickly. If you ask most people to move their hand to like 1.67 inches, they won't be able to do this. They will have the precision to get very close to this number, but they will be confused and just move their hand to a random distance, not knowing how far 1.67 inches is. But if you give them a target on screen that requires 1.67 inches of hand movement, they'll be able to do it very easily. This is just your unconscious mind being able to control your joints with an extremely high level of precision without you having to think too much about it. Speed is the same way. Moving your hand fast will feel unreplicatable. You won't know how fast it was, you won't know if it was like 1 inch per second or whatever. But the on-screen feedback of a hit or a miss, and by how much either way, combined with the strong capabilities of your unconscious mind, grant you the ability to move your mouse the right speed and distance easily if you take the time to learn Accel. Taking the time to learn this, in my experience, is probably around a week to 2 weeks. It's really not that hard. And after you take the time to learn it, if you shut off Accel and then come back to it a few weeks later, you'll find you're able to pick it up a lot faster than you were the first time. Everyone who's ran Accel for a while is completely aware you can learn this, even Viscos. But this just makes Accel feel neutral, non-beneficial, a setting that simply seems like an inconvenience to learn. To be worth your time, Accel must come with some benefits, right? These benefits are what I was explaining earlier with a low sense for when you move precisely and the high sense for when you want to move quickly. Then why do people say that there are drawbacks? Viscos claimed it made dynamic clicking much harder, and I also noticed she struggled with PGTI during her time on mouse Accel. Let's start with PGTI. PGTI bots at their apex are easy to hit, but when they're falling they are faster and harder to hit, which would likely require more precision. So your Accel will make these essentially feel harder and smaller on your mousepad when you want them to feel bigger. Most of the benefits of a high sense in PGTI come from the fact that you don't have to reset as often, but since the horizontal motion mostly comes from the bot when it's at its apex and slowest, you won't get this benefit from Accel. Therefore, PGTI is non-optimized for Accel. This scenario has no need for it and it doesn't benefit from it. This isn't a negative reflection on mouse Accel any more than saying 20 centimeters isn't great for static clicking as a negative reflection on 20 centimeters. Different settings have different points where they are ideal and different points where they aren't. If 20 centimeters doesn't feel right on static, you run 50 centimeters. If mouse Accel doesn't feel right on PGTI, you shut it off. Then when you're done, turn it back on. Dynamic clicking is a different case, however. As I mentioned above, mouse Accel will make you feel like the bots that are moving are harder to hit compared to a flat sense that is around the sense of your curve at that bot's pace. Also, you'll want to be more precise when matching the speed of the bot or the enemy, meaning that a higher sense that the curve puts you on is unwanted typically. This means that the Accel has some benefits as you can flick more easily between the bots or the counter-strafing enemies in game, but you'll struggle more with the precision you need to hit them. But raw Accel is customizable. With the right settings, you can completely eliminate the problems you're facing while still keeping this benefit of flicking between targets with a higher sense. All you have to do is just put a little bit of an offset on your curve. This will make it so that the mouse acceleration part of the curve doesn't actually start until a certain speed, so that you'll be on a flat sense and you won't have to deal with issues when you're aiming at the guy counter-strafing or the pasu bot pasuing, but still get all the benefits of flicking between the targets on the Accel. If you want to set up a curve like this, check out the video I made in the top right where I explain how I made Zexro's curve. If you're playing a more tracking oriented game like Apex Legends, where you'll be tracking extremely far away people 1 minute and then very close people another, then the calculus issue I mentioned earlier won't actually matter. Its negative effect is noticeable when compared to a similar sense, but a similar sense isn't the other option. You want drastically different sensitivities like 50 centimeters per 360 for far away tracking and 30 centimeters per 360 for close range fights. You'd end up running a compromised sense nowhere close to either if you couldn't use Accel. You could also just be like a siege player like Shaiko, run really low sensitivity when you're ADSing and very high hipfire sensitivity. This allows for pretty similar benefits to mouse Accel. Now you may still think that the extra dimension of speed plays a major role, and it definitely is there, but when you set up a curve the right way for your current game, you'll feel like it is a lot easier to aim than if you were to set up a curve for another game. Having to aim with the speed allows you to be way less precise with the distance you traveled. If you still want to see how I made Zexro's curve, feel free to check out this video. If you want to see the video Viscos made that I'm responding to, feel free to check that out here. Obviously nothing against her, she's a great aimer, knows a ton, and gave me permission to mention her in this video, and most importantly, thanks for watching. I just want to make this as clear as possible, I am not advocating for anyone to do anything negative towards Viscos.